Welcome back to the official Sasquatch and Squirrel show. I'm Phil.
I'm Tim. Would like to actually give a huge shout out to our international listeners in Belgium, Japan, Romania, and Mexico. Thank you so much for tuning into our show. That means a lot to us. It also means a lot to us for all of our stateside viewers as well.
Absolutely.
Wanted to pay the bills here a little bit and introduce our sponsor. Today's sponsor is brought to you by us. We paid for this shit.
Yes, we do. This episode, we're going to talk about Killdozer. We watched a couple of different YouTube documentaries, one being called Tread, which is a 2019 documentary. Then there was another one that we watched. It was called They Lied to You About Killdozer. And there was a third one that you watched, right, Tim?
Yeah, it was interviewing the Killdozer victims, but it was more or less just a guy that went through the town, and then for some odd reason he thought it'd be a good idea to bring a bulldozer that identically matched this thing, and that kind of stirred up a lot of people when he did that. But we'll definitely include all these links at the very end of this, or actually in the YouTube comments.
Let's just dive into it. So the person driving the Killdozer, his name was Marvin Heemeyer, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
He was a South Dakota native.
Yeah, I believe he retired from the Air Force.
Right. He was very well liked in his community. And he was known as a guy that would do anything for you, give you the shirt off his back kind of thing.
Yeah, seemed like a decent fellow from the way everybody described him. No one had a bad word against him.
Right. So, and it's usually those affable type of people that'll do anything for you. But once once you cross that line with them, they're done.
Yeah, then it's over with. Yeah, you're absolutely done.
But I think that's just about anybody, though. I think
we all have a limit.
Everybody's got a limit, and this guy had his when they started screwing with his livelihood, started screwing with his business. He wanted to open up a muffler shop that he had in this auctioned off property that he had found in Granby.
Yeah.
And I think it got to the point to where, the small town government was, because looking at him as an outsider, didn't particularly like him, maybe, or maybe there was some sort of friction with another town member there, which I think there was.
When he bought that property, apparently he had a dick bumping contest with another fellow that supposedly had a lien on the property or a lien against the property or something like that, and he went over there and chewed his ass out pretty good for it. Whatever the case it was, I honestly think that right there was the thing that kind of blacked the eye already. So he was buying a piece of property that somebody in the community already had. And the guy that was the owner of the property was also good friends with a lot of the people that was in the town, city council and stuff like that. I think that's what I heard.
Yeah, that was what I derived from the documentary as well. Now, both of these documentaries are one's more of a YouTube video and the other one's an actual full-blown documentary. But things are written by people from their perspective, whether it's, biased or not. Everyone has some sort of bias in their view.
Of course.
So I guess there was a dispute over him connecting to a sewer line, or the shop that he bought had a septic tank that was made out of an old concrete mixer.
Yeah.
Like a concrete truck.
Mm-hmm.
But they just kept on him about having this, being hooked up to the city sewer. It just kind of escalated from there.
It was like 400 feet to the nearest spot that he could actually connect to the sewer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was going to be $70,000, upwards of $70,000+ to install it, and he protested that. Which I understand.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money. There should have been a better way to help this man out.
Well, and I think that was more than what he paid for the property. I think he only paid like $40,000 for
40, 50, something like that.
Yeah, but it's just ridiculous. And the thing is that he already had this little rigged up as it was. He had no need to hook up to the sewer system because he had the septic tank.
Yeah, and I guess that's the part that's really not clear to me exactly why now all of a sudden they just had to get that going, so But
Well, yeah, it's just to it's just to make him jump through the hoop to be part of the community.
right.
Rules for thee, but not for me. And apparently, with the person that had originally owned the land, they were wanting to put a cement factory on the land, and he was worried about the dust and the noise, and it was going to be literally adjacent, butting up against his business. So he was afraid that it was going to take away from his muffler shop, which he was a master welder, by the way, and he was very good at what he did.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a point to where when people start to push and they push, it's like it's okay while they're doing the pushing, but the moment that you push back, you're the villain.
Yeah, yeah. And I think there's a lot of that going on here. I mean, you got to think this is a small town place. So we're talking about a small town mentality.
Mhm.
You got, and I come from a small town as well,
Mhm.
and been around small towns. And it's like everybody knows your business, and they don't really care for outsiders coming in because they kind of want to keep it like the old way. And there's a lot of like, I don't like change,
Right.
that kind of stuff going on. I think a lot of that was actually playing into this right here. You had the people that was causing this problem, and all these issues were people that was one involved in the construction of what they were wanting to build in the first place, also on the city council. Hell, the father of the Thompsons, which owned the construction company,
Mhm.
the father was actually the mayor of the city at one point in time.
Right, so you can tell it's definitely there's a lot of nepotism involved and a lot of, back deals and that kind of thing. So and you get the person who's not part of that upper crust or
Right.
rubbing elbows with the, with the higher ups in the city, they're going to look at them as a troublemaker.
And I guarantee you too, when he bought that property, even if that guy didn't have that argument with him or yelling at him, if that even took place,
At the auction, yeah.
yeah, even if that part right there didn't happen, Hemeyer was on board for this. He
Mhm.
was wanting to do it. He got fucked around every single way that he tried going. It's like he tried to do something, they push back. He tried doing something else, he pushed back. Well, he started pushing back. They didn't like it so much,
Right.
and that's what I gathered through this whole thing.
That's what it sounds like to me too, but I think that the fact that they wanted to charge him that much money just for an install of a sewer unit, I guess, it's an expensive thing, but to charge him almost double what his building cost.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous to me.
Yeah, yeah, it is ridiculous. So I could see where he was mad about that, but it just reminds me of the small time city council just picking on the outsider. But I don't, it's not a conspiracy because it's just not. But it was just bullying, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it's like be on their side or no side at all because it's their way or the highway. It's pretty much the way I got the information.
So I know that he wrote him a check for a fine, and I think he put on the note of the check. And the check, kids, for people that don't know, it's a piece of paper to pay people with. For those of you who have never seen a check.
You got to work to get one of those too.
You do. So it says to pay the order of, and then and on the bottom of it, there's notes. Like, so you could say this was for X, but he put the cowards and thieves of the Granby City Council,
Yeah,
which I found was a nice. I mean, did he have to do that? No, but that was like a nice shining bright middle finger to say, hey, And
yeah,
then of course they didn't accept the check because when he wrote out the amount, because you have to write out the amount in full on the line of the check, they didn't take the check because he had misspelled something. So it was and he thought it was them screwing with him, but it wasn't. So this is where the point of miscommunication comes in.
yeah. Well, let's think about it too. The guy's pissed off.
Mhm.
He's been getting fucked over for uh
Years.
around 13 years dealing with this issue.
Mhm.
I mean, hell, even the townspeople bullied him. He sued the city. The
Mhm.
judge threw the case out. He was trying to even get his lawyer to do an appeal, and the lawyer refused to appeal it. So after that, the townspeople were ridiculing him supposedly by he would go like to the post office, and they'd be like snickering at him,
Mhm.
um, just be like, "Ha ha ha!" You didn't get your way, blah blah blah. I mean, you got to think though, 13 years of bullshit. This guy's a loner.
Right.
Who does he vent to other than his buddies that's on the snowmobiling deal?
Right. I know that according to the Tread documentary, he had a girlfriend, things were going well, but I think he pushed her away because I don't want to say he was planning the whole Killdozer thing. I think he was just, he was just frustrated and didn't know how to communicate properly.
Supposedly, like he was kind of against his girlfriend smoking too. So that's what the catalyst of the argument was about.
Right.
Yeah, apparently he had like a moment with God in a hot tub, and while having a beer, he was just
Really?
yeah. Um,
Was it God or was it a Glen off a snowmobiling trophy? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there because that happens quite a bit, right? I mean, he's like, oh God, it's a shooting star. It's a sign from God. No, it's a fucking shooting star. It has nothing to do with God, and it's just ever how you want to interpret it, right? I mean,
right.
I'm, let's call a spade here, and just say that that whole thing that God told me to do it. That's a cop out. I'm sorry, 100% cop out. That's just
Yeah, you hear that shit a lot too with cults and such. So it's just like that right there is, in itself is very cultish mindset.
of course,
And you hear that all the time.
yeah,
Back to the topic of this fellow. So, supposedly he was, having a moment, and he knew he wanted to get revenge.
yeah,
I don't think he was actually planning the design of the tank that he was building yet.
yeah,
According to listening to the tapes that they were playing.
hmm
Basically, what he did is he wanted to buy a big bulldozer as an intimidation factor for the Thompsons, which were the construction owners,
hmm
and he put a sign out on the front that said "For sale by owner."
right.
Apparently, it didn't sell, and it
Well,
was in good shape.
from from what I remember hearing was he had an auction for all of this because he was closing his muffler shop down because he was just tired of it,
Yeah, he was getting over it.
and he put some things up for auction, including the dozer that would eventually become Killdozer. No one took it. Yet again, he took that as a sign from God,
Right.
and the fact that it fit easily, or almost not, I'm gonna say easily, but fit exactly into his work area that he had at the muffler shop.
Yeah, I mean, he could have bought, from what he said, he could have bought any other dozer.
hmm
But when he bought that one, everything was just so perfectly aligned. So he kind of thought that these were all signs from God. And he was very, very religious, whether that's a plus or minus for the fella.
Right.
I just think all that pressure built up over time and people constantly poking the bear, for lack of better terms.
hmm
He just popped. And, when his father died, I think that right there was the main catalyst for him to, you know, spring loose.
Yeah, that was the straw that broke the camel's back per se.
Yeah.
So he at this point he sold his house and he's living in his workshop. He built a lift for this thing and he's like it's steel with concrete being poured in the middle of it and it's just super reinforced and I guess when he decided that when it was time to unleash this thing, there wasn't much that could stop it if anything. I mean, I'm sitting here watching it and I saw the footage of the actual on-site footage and I'm looking at this thing and I said the only thing that's going to stop this is an RPG
Yeah.
or something that's gonna knock the treads off of the dozer. And, they're shooting this thing with handguns, and I'm like, "What are you might as well go get a straw with some paper and some spitballs."
Right. I mean, that's pretty much all it. And I'm surprised that thing didn't ricochet off and, one of the cops and
Exactly.
get hit by it, because I mean, it's a piece of metal.
And then as they're hitting it with a 50 cal, and, I don't know if you've ever seen a 50 cal round.
Right. That's pretty
It's
huge.
almost the length that it's, depending upon the size of your hand, it's the length of a human hand,
Right.
and this thing and it's not it's like, "What are you doing?" I'm laughing at it. That's what the tank is saying.
Also, keep in mind, too, that, he actually had a 50 cal rifle mounted in the dozer itself, and he was actually trying to do other things that's harm. He was over here backed up to a propane place, and he was trying to make one of those explode and cause a big explosion. I mean, he was really intending on hurting people. I don't know. Maybe the whole reason why it didn't happen is because those people didn't bother him. Why pick on those people? Because it would have been blowing up all of those people's homes. Because that's very close to that little area for what it showed.
Oh, from the propane facility, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like it's literally across the street.
Hmm.
If you look at the map of what he did, the first thing he took out was the cement plant
Mhm.
of his lead adversary or imagined adversary.
Yeah, that's right.
And then he went to everybody's business that did him wrong and he took it out. Now, this is where we can discuss the morality of this. I mean, is this the way to do it? Probably not.
No, I mean, there's always a better way.
Right, because to me it that borderlines domestic terrorism,
Yeah,
you know? And it's just not, I mean, I get it. We all get kicked in the teeth, we all get pushed down, we all get held down by something somewhere.
right. And thing are about old school people, when they've had enough, they've had enough, and now you went too far. Now it's my turn for revenge. So all the people that wronged him,
Mhm.
he destroyed their property and millions of dollars worth of property too.
I would assume so, yeah. It's not really getting even, it's just adding to the muck,
Right.
because now he screwed those people over because he destroyed their business. I mean, this is where communication comes in. It's like, but if they could have all pulled their head out of their collective asses and had an adult conversation about things.
Right, without yelling and screaming at one another, without trying to sue one another, and without trying to, "Hey, this is my idea, and I want my idea to win," which is what it seemed like the whole time.
And it did, and it's like it just turned what it was a giant dick measuring contest.
Mhm.
I guess the moral of the story is just communicate with people. If you're able to communicate properly, and if you're able to say, "Hey, you know what? This isn't. I don't think I'm being treated fairly here." Then maybe there'll be a sensitive ear. I don't know, but I mean, I don't think building a 60-ton dozer tank thing is the answer either.
Treat people how you wanna be treated.
Yeah,
Your idea may not be the only one in the room, but at least hear it out.
right.
And just because it isn't popular, it isn't the idea that you want,
Hmm.
doesn't mean it ain't the right course of action too.
Yeah.
So it's like don't bully people into doing only what you want. I believe the town itself, with the good old boy system as it was,
Hmm.
I believe they were in the wrong for that. Hemeyer was in the wrong for doing the deeds that he did. So yeah, I think it was wrong on both ends of the argument.
There's usually three sides to every story: his side, her side, and then there's the truth.
True.
So you have to look somewhere in between to find the truth.
Yep.
That being said, what I'm really trying to figure out
What's that?
is I'm trying to figure out how this guy put his pants on with balls so big every day. Because the fucking pair on this guy to build a 60-ton tank dozer and say, you know what, I'm gonna fuck you up, and that's what he did. And I mean,
That's that's what
like we
he
just
did.
said, that's exactly what he did. So I mean, is it right?
No,
No, that's not for me to decide. I'm not judging him. I'm judging his action.
right.
Or the execution of the action. I mean, it's just but it's a fucking ballsy move, you
It's
know?
definitely that. The saddest part is the community lost a good welder,
Mhm.
what was supposed to be a great human being, and it was just, as a lot of people have said, a reasonable man being pushed to do unreasonable things.
Yeah. And that's well, I think there was a quote somewhere, and I don't remember who said it, but "Walk softly, but carry a big stick."
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that's kinda what he was doing. I mean, he just had enough of their shit and said, I'm gonna show y'all."
One thing that I noticed from the videos that we watched, at the very end of the tread video, they were over here at the very end of the video stating, I wish they would have kept the dozer because that thing could have been put in a museum. Do you know how much money that thing brought our community?
Oh, you're talking about the Thompson guy.
Yeah. Dude, and like, I'll be honest with you. I was on Team Granby
Mhm.
for the whole time.
Mhm.
When he said that, it showed that he was a greedy son of a bitch,
Mhm.
in my opinion,
Yeah.
extremely greedy. And, yeah, maybe he's a businessman. That's one thing, but, you don't capitalize off of a national tragedy like that.
No, I mean, that's like someone going out and selling shirts after somebody gets shot or what, or something. It's just it's bad taste.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with what you're saying. It's in poor taste to do that. And I was watching the same documentary that you did, and I was kind of in the middle with it. I wasn't team, Heemeyer or team Granby.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But until that doofy fuck said, "Well, you should have kept the thing here and make us more money." No, I was like, okay, I was watching it with my girlfriend, and I said that right there proves to me that these guys screwed this dude over and made his life a living hell.
Yeah, that definitely stuck out to me. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing too that I noticed when I was watching the video interviewing Killdozer victims, I brought my bulldozer. When I was watching that, this gentleman was going to certain places and talking to different people, and it was like he bought a book from people. It was like basically a what is it, like a tourist trap now?
Yeah.
And it's like they're profiting off this fellow's misery, and I think that's terrible.
Yeah, it's bad for him. But I mean, I guess he did try to bulldoze half their town.
And that is a big thing. And for a small town, that's a big story. And the crazy thing about it was, uh, literally the day after this happened, Ronald Reagan passed away.
Yeah.
And there was no more mention of the story after that.
They got buried because I mean, when you have a president die, it's gonna flood headlines and it's
Oh,
gonna be
yeah,
bigger than
absolutely.
stuff.
It's big news.
I hate to call Niemeyer a psycho, but I mean, there's some definite.
There's some traits here.
Yeah, I would think so.
But, I think it was a culmination, though, of being pushed for so long and having to be out. I mean, the man spent almost a 500,000, if not more, of his own money and getting bullied and in his mind getting bullied and, telling how much it was basically a pressure cooker for him.
Yeah, 100%.
So that kind of stuff could drive you crazy.
It can all be boiled down to mental health.
Yeah.
He was a loner, minus his snowmobiling group and his girlfriend. But it's just it. I can kind of sympathize because I've been a loner most of my life. You know.
Hmm.
So, but that's something between me and my therapist. But anyways,
I mentioned earlier about him sitting in the hot tub and being called on by God. I mentioned cults.
right.
What do you think about cults?
I think that is our next episode.
So where can they find us?
You can find us at facebook.com, the Sasquatch and Squirrel Show, X at the official SS Show, email at sasquatchandsquirrel@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube at the official Sasquatch and Squirrel Show.
And you can also find us on Rumble now. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening, and we really appreciate you tuning in. See you next time.